Thought exercise today, folks. What records from your collection would go in your proverbial firebox? What are the ones that you would save at all costs? Let's talk about it. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome to Northern Revolutions. I'm Rob. Welcome back if you're returning. Welcome if you're new. As I mentioned off the top, little thought exercise today. My good pal Chris up at Stylus Meets Vinyl put out a video a couple weeks ago, which I thought was great. And it was his proverbial Firebox records. You know, what are the 10 records he'd put in the fire safe box that, you know, he would want to be protected, you know, from utter catastrophe, the records that are the most meaningful. And I thought that was an interesting exercise because, you know, I've got 1,000 records and a hell of a lot of other stuff that I treasure very, very much. And I thought of those records, you know, what would be the ones that I'd want to put in that firebox to just make sure they're absolutely safe. So let it marinate for a little while. And here's my response, Chris. Okay, the first one was a no-brainer, and any viewer of my channel can probably guess what the number one record I would put in my proverbial firebox. Of course, it's my Butcher cover. Yeah, I've shown it before. It's beat up all to hell. I don't care. I can't afford a decent quality one, nor can I find a decent quality one. So I've always been thrilled with this. And aside from, you know, the fact that they're rare, the fact that I was able to track one down about 10 or 15 years ago adds a little bit of, you know, the thrill of the hunt, so to speak. There's some sentimental value to this as well. But this was always, you know, the most holy of the record grails, if there ever was one for me. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer that this would be the first one to go in the firebox to keep it safe. The second one that I think needs to go to be saved from catastrophe. I don't know that I've ever shown this album before. It's framed, so I'm not going to take it out of the frame. Moondog Matinee by the band. The reason I would want to save this, as you can see, this is signed by Robbie Robertson. I'm a big fan of the band. Robbie's my favorite by far. So the fact that I have a Robbie Robertson autograph, pretty important to me. No, I did not acquire this in person, but it is authenticated. The fact that Robbie Robertson is no longer with us, obviously, he ain't going to be making any more autographs. So this, not going to find many more of these, right? So, I mean, I wish it was a better album than Moondog Matinee, but, I mean, the silver autograph on the black cover shows are pretty nice. I'd save my Robbie Robertson autograph. The third one that would go in my proverbial vinyl firebox. Again, like the Butcher cover, regular viewers of my channel won't be surprised by this selection. I've talked in numerous videos over the last couple of years. You know, the reason that all of this started and the reason I'm a music guy is my dad, who, other than my son, you know, the most important person in my life, obviously gave me life and made me who I am. So you can thank him for that or curse him for that, depending on your perspective, I suppose. So obviously I'm going to save one of Dad's records, and I'm going to save this, which I have shown before. This is Delaney and Bonnie and Friends on tour with Eric Clapton. This was my dad's favorite album. And in fact, this is his copy. His name's written on the back. And I remember him playing this a ton when I was a kid. And I remember him going on and on about why this is an absolutely stellar album, and it is. And when he passed in 2009, and I was faced with the, you know, difficult task of what do I do with his substantial record collection, obviously the first thing I did was take what I wanted out of it. And this, I gotta have Delaney and Bonnie. I mean, that's the one I sort of dove in head first, so to speak. This one was the top of the list. So because this held such an important bought for my dad. It has an immense sentimental value, this copy in particular. So this goes in the proverbial firebox. Continuing on the theme of sort of sentimentality, the next one that I would put in the fire safe box to keep for all of posterity, I guess, is this EP here. It's Blake Preston. It's an EP called Rat Race. I know none of you have heard of this. This is one of my best friends. Blake and I were roommates. We have been friends for 30 some odd years. This was his, we'll call it the debut EP. I would save this not just because it's Blake and he's my friend, but I had a hand in the production of this, not musically, but the production of the actual physical product. And it's the first album where my name appears on it, which is kind of cool. But I would keep this because it's my friend, because I helped make this a physical reality. But most importantly, there are only 5 copies of this on vinyl. We did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these on CD, but as a surprise to Blake, I had 5 of these vinyl records made. They're not pressed, they're lathe cut, because you're not going to press 5 records because it's prohibitively expensive. But I had 5 of these lathe cut, and they're lathe cut on clear vinyl, which looks pretty cool. And really, they sound great. My pal Blake, Rat Race. Got to go in the firebox. Okay. Didn't have to give this one any thought either. And my pal Brian at Shamrock and Records, if you're watching this, sorry, brother. My South African first press of Rodriguez, Cold Fact. I talked about Rodriguez a lot. Love him. The topic of the documentary, Searching for Sugar Man. If you've seen that, you know why this is a big deal. Suffice it to say, Rodriguez was an unknown singer in America, even though he's from Detroit, was an absolute monster musical icon in South Africa and also Australia. Much to his, he had no idea for a good 20 some odd years. So this is a first press Cold Fact from South Africa, where he outsold Elvis and the Beatles and was an unknown here. So it's a fairy tale story. If you haven't seen Searching for Sugar Man, watch it. But I am very, very thrilled to have a South African first press of this. Sorry, Brian. The next couple are records that people are going to go, I don't give a shit. I know you don't, but I do. So, Aerosmith's Just Push Play from 2001. Listen, not a great record. It's the one that Jaded came off of. I mean, everyone hates latter-day Aerosmith. I like this album, actually. But I would keep this in my firebox only because early 2000s vinyl, there wasn't a lot pressed. These are hard to find. Also, you know, the grand scheme of thing of Aerosmith's discography, it probably ranks near the bottom. So, I mean, this is a pretty scarce record. I don't want to pay $200, $300, $400 for another one. So this one is in pretty flawless condition, and I've had it for 20 years. So, you know, I like it, and because of its rarity, obviously I would keep it. Following right on the heels of that is Aerosmith's Honkin' on Bobo, which is arguably probably even more rare than Just Push Play. This was the follow-up from 2004. It's their blues album, and pretty much everybody hates it except for me. I love it. But again, I've only ever seen one of these in the wild. I rarely pop up online. I'm a completist, so I have everything that Aerosmith put out. So, again, it's a few $100 up here if you can get one of these, and I don't want to spend that money. And I love the fact that I've had this since Honkin' on Bobo came out. So it's going in the firebox. Listen, I have tried very hard over the last number of weeks not to mention a certain Canadian band that I'm quite fond of, because certain people, Concert Buddy, and others like to ridicule me whenever I bring this band up. But F you, it's my favorite band, so I'm going to bring it up. Blue Rodeo's The Days in Between, their album from 2000, was only pressed as a promo issue. They sold them at some of the stops on the tour, was never in stores. crazy hard to find. I wouldn't say this copy. I have 2 copies of this. Thankfully, because I have a friend in the band, which was how I procured one of these. But anyway, this is very rare and very expensive. But I have a copy of this that is autographed by the entire band. It's hanging on my wall. I didn't feel like taking the framed copy off the wall. But because it's my favorite Blue Rodeo album, because you will probably never ever see it in a store and very rarely online, and my copy's autographed, that's going in the Firebox without question. Right on the heels of that, their album Are You Ready from 2005 was not the album after Days in Between, but the album after Days in Between. Again, was never in stores, promo only. Not a, it's an okay album. It's largely acoustic. It's fine. But again, they're so incredibly rare. I've never ever seen one for sale anywhere. I bought one at the concert and it's signed again on the wall. I didn't want to take it off. And I also have this playing copy that's not signed. Again, because I have a friend in the band. So for the same reason as the Days in Between, this is in the Firebox. This one was going in the Firebox because I'm going to dedicate this to my good friend Racer Joe, because I know he's a massive fan. Bryan Adams. I know he loves Bryan Adams. 18 Till I Die from 1996. Again, 90s vinyl. Very, very limited pressing of this. Never seen one for sale. I bought this probably around 2000. So I've had it for like 25 years. I actually really like this record. I might say it was probably his last good record. The ones since then have been fairly mediocre. But I love this. This is the one that has, the only thing that looks good on me is you, 18 Till I Die. Yeah, some good stuff. Anyway, again, these don't come up for sale pretty much ever. And I'm Ray Cue me all you want. I'm a Bryan Adams completist. So this going in the Firebox, as I don't feel like tracking another one of them down. And last but not least is this record. What is this record, you ask? Well, it is the test pressing for this album. I've talked about Whitehorse all the time. I absolutely love the band Whitehorse from Toronto. This is their album from 2017 called The Panther and the Dollhouse. It's a great sort of pop rock record by Luke Doucette and Alyssa McClellan. Absolutely love this album. And I am lucky enough to own a test pressing, of which there were only 4 produced. So this is number 4 of 4 of the test pressing of Panther and the Dollhouse by Whitehorse. One of my favorite bands, one of my favorite albums by one of my favorite bands, and I'm lucky to have a test press. Going in the Firebox. There you go, folks. Those are the 10, 11 records that I would put in sort of the fire safe box, the ones that I would run into a burning building to save, proverbially speaking. The 10 albums, 11 that are the most important to me for a whole bunch of different reasons. The ones that if I had to get rid of everything else, those would be the ones that I'd keep. So interesting thought exercise, Chris. I will leave a link to Chris at Stylus Meets Vinyl. You can check out his original video on this topic. Let me know in the comments, what are your records that would go in your proverbial Firebox? Thanks for watching, everybody. Catch you on the flip side.